We're at Studio 3. I'm being flanked by 2 dogs.
Is that the name of our...
This is Studio 3.
It actually sounds really official when you say, here we are, it's live at Studio 3.
Studio 3.
Was that your daughter?
Yeah, that's my daughter making noises.
Chirping?
She's saying, I don't know, she hit the projector on the ceiling, and there's like a monkey that goes across there, and she makes the monkey sound. She just goes, ah, 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 and it's like, she's just, she's the smartest little cute thing in the world.
You should let her on the podcast.
I don't want her to have that kind of fame yet. I want to ease her into the
ease her into the luxurious parts of life.
Listen, sweetheart, if you work really, really hard, you could make tens of thousands of dollars.
Are you speaking to her or to me? Did you just call me sweetheart?
Everybody listening.
Here's what you should
Everyone's my sweetheart.
Let's make this cold open a message to your daughter that she won't hear for like 10 years.
Oh yes. All right.
Like if you could say, okay, let's just start right here. So if you could say anything, like talk to your daughter in 10 years and tell her where you're at right now in 2018. What is today's date? July 23rd, July 23rd, 2018. Tell her your advice for her based on today.
McKinley.
And this is you'll have to play this for her when she's like 5.
McKinley is your father. I want you to know that I love you.
I'm also here. This is Dave.
And I want you to know.
Hopefully you'll know me at this point.
Uncle Dave's here. I want you to know how much I love you. And I'm going to impart some life lessons for you. Number 1, no Crocs. Ever. Do not wear Crocs. I don't care who says they're comfortable. Don't wear Crocs.
They look horrible.
They're terrible.
And they will look even worse if you try to make them fashionable and make heels out of them.
Life lesson number 2, ketchup is overrated.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Do not at me on this. Ketchup is way overrated. And number 3, and this is probably the most important thing I'm ever going to tell you for as long as you live. If you say something about
the Goonies, I
want you to know that no matter what you do in life, you can maybe someday be half as cool as your father.
Nerdy, unqualified, and probably indistinguishable from rambling. Welcome to the A&D show.
Shaquille. Hello and welcome. Oh, I'll start that over.
Please. I almost said Shaquanda.
Hello and welcome to the A&D show. I'm David.
I'm Austin.
And we have a very special episode for you this week. Listeners, hopefully there's more than one at this point.
Please.
Who can really say, though?
Please.
I mean,
if nothing else, I enjoyed this show. I said before, I enjoy doing the show, so if no one else listens, I don't care.
Yeah, if we don't have any other listeners, my mom listens.
Thanks, Mom.
We gave her a shout-out a couple weeks ago, so that was fun. Yeah. Her crawdad cooking.
And some food.
So we've got a really great show for you guys this week. As you all know, we are just exactly 1 week removed from the debut of the new Mission Impossible 6. Was it Fallout? The name of it?
7. Isn't it 7?
No, I think it's 6.
Are you sure?
Yeah, guys, I have the other 5.
Oh, okay. Hold on.
But last Friday, Mission Impossible 6 came out.
You're right. It's 6. You're correct.
Told you.
Sorry, I had to come back to my head.
I hate being right all the time.
Oh, it's terrible.
That's not true.
Don't get married.
You know your wife does listen to this podcast now. She's going to hear you say that.
Barely. I'll assure you, she's not listening to the Mission Impossible episode. I can tell you that much right now.
She's not going to have any idea what's going on with it. She's not going to be like, she's not going to know what it is. Anyway.
Mission and what?
What?
Mission and what?
Mission and what?
Where's the mission? Anyway, yes, continue. Sorry.
So, last Friday, Mission Impossible 6 came out. And here's the thing. Or as our dear friends, over in Tennessee would say, here's the deal.
Here's the deal?
That's the podcast, the other podcast.
Oh, that's right, yes. What's up, guys?
What's up, guys? Shout out to Here's the Deal. Go check them out. They're hilarious. But anyway, from what we have gathered over the last couple of weeks about this film, it is slated to be the best Mission Impossible ever made.
At time of recording, it was up to like 96% on Rotten Tomatoes.
On Rotten Tomatoes, which is notorious for being super harsh.
Especially to franchise films, to action movies, to
Tom Cruise.
I mean, it's notoriously hard on any kind of franchise, and it's popping to 96 on Rotten Tomatoes. I mean, it looks so.
Yeah.
I mean, every review I read a review last night from Empire, and they went on and on about how good it was, and how it's probably the best movie of the franchise.
Yeah.
I mean,
and it's only taken them 6 movies to get there, but
well, they're all good.
Yeah, they're all great.
Which is the purpose of today's discussion.
Yeah. So we just thought in tandem with the release of the 6th entry of that franchise, that we would just take a little time for you, the listener, and let's just discuss for a second. It's fun. It's great. Oh man, it's a great show.
Yes,
great movie. It's not a show. It was a show.
It was a show.
I have here's an interesting factoid. I actually have seen a few episodes of the original series.
Awful.
It wasn't the worst. It wasn't Magnum PI though.
Oh no, it was not. That is
Magnum
true.
PI. Hot take. Magnum PI is
awful.
What?
Although that man, I tell you what, if I could have Tom Selleck's mustache, I mean, not like I don't want to like steal his. Like if I could have my
literally
like
cut his mustache off, just wear it around like with Scotch tape.
Like my dad's a mustache man. Like I tried it before. Like, the other night I shaved. So hey, they go, I'm just gonna leave this here, and she goes, No, you're not. I think she puked. I don't blame her.
Yeah, I mean,
it is what it is.
Not everybody can pull off a mustache like that. The cookie duster, you know.
Tom Selleck can.
Well, Tom Selleck is, he's himself. He's Magnum PI. But anyway, hot take, Magnum PI, from this podcaster's perspective, is probably the best show ever made, in my opinion. In my non-humble, very braggadocious, and very biased opinion.
We need to have a TV show episode, and we'll discuss all the things TV.
All the things TV.
We digress.
But this is not what we're talking about today. We're talking about Mission Impossible. But Mission Impossible was a television show from the 60s. It wasn't horrible, but it wasn't great.
Right.
It wasn't anything. It wasn't blockbuster material until Mr. Cruise.
Right. Well, it wasn't a show like today where you have these shows that go on for 6, 7, 8, 10 seasons. I mean, it was... I think Mission Impossible ran for maybe 4 seasons? Was it even that long of a running show? Like, I don't even think it was that long of a TV show. I'm trying to think of when it first came out, how long it ran, and I want to say that show only ran for a total of 2 seasons.
Let's look it up here.
Because I remember thinking...
It's actually very highly rated. It's actually... It's got an 8 out of 10 on...
Right, but when it first came out...
66 to 73. It ran almost 10 years.
Right, but I remember whenever the first movie came out, I remember that I tried to watch some of these old shows, and there were 7 seasons, which surprises me. I didn't think it was that long of a running show.
Yeah.
So it came out or the final episode was in 73. Mm-hmm. There's 7 seasons, 171 episodes, which surprises me because for a long time I always thought that was a shorter-lived show.
You'd think so. But you don't hear much about it. It's not really exactly. It's not a hot topic of pop culture conversation.
When people list like the best TV shows of all time, Mission Impossible was never on that list. But
actually, interestingly enough, it was followed by a revival series called Mission Impossible, where they picked it up in 1988.
Really?
Yeah.
I wasn't aware of that.
They went on for another two more seasons, for another 35 episodes. On CBS.
It surprises me that...
And it went from 88 to 1990. Wow.
The 90s?
Yeah.
See, and I don't remember that ever being on when I was a kid. That would have been 5.
That's really interesting. I didn't know that it actually... Because,
I vaguely...
we were both alive for the second run of it.
I vividly remember TV shows from the late 80s and the 90s. I remember watching... I remember...
Star Trek The Next Generation.
The Rescue 911 theme was grained into my head. I remember the other day I YouTubed the Rescue 911 theme, and I remember how good of a song that was.
Yeah.
It was my jam back in the day.
Right.
But
no, it wasn't.
We're at 6 movies now.
Yeah. Here's the thing. To come from a series, and let's just add both let's just add both series together to say that its overall small screen run was 9 seasons and what, about 215 episodes?
Yeah, probably.
And for it to have gone from that, which is I would say, a fairly successful run for a television show, and for it to have gone from that to what it is today, it's just a massive ballooning factor. Now, a lot of that is due primarily to Tom Cruise and his tenacity for those films. He has, from what I understand, and now I haven't looked this up, but this is just what I've understood, he has personally sought those movies out and personally propagated that franchise himself. And which is just, first of all, it's impressive. I'm glad he does it because I really like those movies. But let me tell you, our first kind of like subtopic of this podcast is which one we think is the best. And listeners, I know you're gonna hear some varied opinions between Austin and myself because I'm sure we both have stark opinions. And if we don't, this will be a surprise for both of us.
Exactly.
But my personal opinion on the entirety, now I haven't seen the 6th one, but my personal opinion, and this may seem super cliche and purist, but my number one favorite is the first one.
Gosh, you're so predictable. I knew that you were going to go with the first one, and you're so predictable about it.
Well, let me... I got the coughs today. Sorry, people. Let me explain. Let me justify. My view of it is that it's like I love what Tom did with the character in the first one. Like the story itself, it's been done before. At the time it hadn't been, which was what made it so good. That twist ending was just, man, it was money. But what I loved about it was the fact that, Tom's character, Ethan Hunt, is a seasoned agent, but the Ethan Hunt we see in Mission Impossible 1 versus, MI5, the most recent one, was it Ghost Protocol?
Yes. No, Rogue Nation was
Rogue
the
Nation.
most recent one.
So, like the Ethan Hunt we see in MI1 versus MI5, that the growth of the character is very evident. And you wouldn't have been able to have that character development and that growth of the character had he started out on top. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, for example, not to deviate too much from our topic for this episode, but when you look at, the most recent foray into DC, right? The Batman, the most recent Batman of DC, not the Nolan Batman, but the Snyder Batman. They didn't have anywhere to go with that character. One of the things that made, Ben Affleck, I think he did a fair job. He wasn't the worst I'd ever seen. He wasn't a George Clooney, that's for sure.
Oh, that's the truth.
But they started so big that they didn't leave themselves any headroom. And so the characters just kind of run its course, and there's not a whole lot more they can do with it, Whereas Nolan's Batman started at this kind of nuanced, early onset Batman, and then you see him progress, right? Same with Ethan Hunt throughout the series. And that's the reason I love the first one so much, is that you kind of see that, where he's just kind of getting his bearings, he's kind of doing his thing. He doesn't have it all together. He hasn't quite figured everything out, but he gets there. And I love that the risks that he takes in that movie, they feel a whole lot more raw and more real in the first one because of the fact that he portrays the character so much more green, which isn't a discredit to the other movies. It's a credit to his portrayal of the character because the way that he grows the character from film to film, in my opinion, in which we're probably way over analyzing this, but in my opinion, the way that he started the character in the first one made the rest of them possible.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And that's what I love about it. I love that he started the character so green and for lack of a better way of saying it, inexperienced. That way he could actually develop the character out over the next 5 movies to what we're going to be seeing, or what we're seeing now,
right,
with the newest one.
Well, for me, when it comes to the best movie of the franchise, you've got 6 films to choose from. Now, I'm like you, I've not seen the newest one yet. I so badly wanted to go with Rogue Nation, so bad, because I absolutely, when I watched Rogue Nation, the first time I watched it, there was a character that I hated,
Which one?
and that was Solomon Lane, played by Sean Harris. The first time I saw it, I absolutely hated it. The more I watched it, the more I thought that the way that Sean Harris played that character was immensely brilliant. And I so badly wanted to go with Rogue Nation as my favorite. But I couldn't, because I, for the life of me, loved Ghost Protocol. I thought Ghost Protocol...
No, that was number 4, right?
That was number 4.
Okay.
So, to me, the way the Ghost Protocol was laid out, when you add in the new characters, I've always been a huge fan of Jeremy Renner. The first time, the first thing I remember seeing him in was SWAT. Back in the...
Was that the one with Colin something other?
Colin Farrell. And
that was like the
LL
last
Cool
movie
J's in
he
it.
starred in or something.
Yeah. So I remember...
LL Cool J.
Yeah. So I remember Jeremy Renner's character in SWAT. When I saw him in Ghost Protocol, the first time I saw Ghost Protocol, I absolutely loved, from start to finish, how good of a movie that was, because it kept your attention throughout the movie. There were ups, there were downs. That you start off in this scenario where you see Tom Cruise as this no, that's number 3 I'm thinking of. I'm thinking number 3 where he was retired. Was that the year he was retired?
Yeah.
But 4 he was still, that's right. Because 4 he was active. That's right. Because 4 starts off with the where they're accused of attacking the Kremlin.
Yeah.
Okay, yep. So, but with Renner's character in Ghost Protocol, I think adding these supporting characters, you always had these supporting characters around Tom Cruise. Whether it was you had Emilio Estevez was in the first one for a short time.
Very short time.
Very short time. You had,
the Mighty Duck Man.
You go into number 2 where you've got Thandie Newton pre-Westworld fame.
Oh,
to, you've always had Ving Rhames around. You add in certain characters, but Ghost Protocol brought in more of a team feel with Simon Pegg with when they added in you had Paula Patton was in it, and there were so many pieces of it that were just phenomenal. The fight scenes in Ghost Protocol, when you had the fights in the Dubai Towers. Wasn't Ronda Rousey in this one, right? Was it Ronda Rousey in this?
No, I think she was in the 5th one.
The 5th one?
Yeah.
That's right.
Because she fought the other girl. I can't remember the other girl's name. The girl
It's Paula Patton. She fought Paula Patton.
Is Paula Patton the girl that
I think you're right. Yeah, I don't think that Ronda Rousey was in this, but there were fights. The Ghost Protocol featured the I'm sorry, I've lost my train of thought. Ghost Protocol was the one where he was climbing up the
with the magnetic gloves.
With the magnetic gloves.
That was probably the coolest. I just spit all over the mic. That was probably the coolest.
And when he's sitting there and he tosses that glove down because it goes. I mean, and I think one of the reasons why I've always loved these movies is because Tom Cruise does most of these own stunts.
Yeah.
I'm watching a video.
Nuts, dude.
He was on, I think, Ellen, talking about one of the stunts he did for the movie where he had basically like broke his foot, and they showed how his foot had bent on this.
Oh, that was on the most recent one.
Yeah, where he's jumping buildings,
and they kept the take.
Yeah.
It's actually in the film.
And he kept on,
Hot take for our listeners: when you see, if and when you watch this movie, if you're a fan, if not, whatever. But when you watch the film, there's a scene where he jumps from the top of one building to another, and he barely makes it, right? And he lands his right foot just under the ledge of the adjacent building that he's jumping to. And you can, if you freeze frame it and you frame by frame, you can actually see his ankle break in the shot. And because what was it, Ellen he was on, or was it Oprah or something?
I'm pretty sure he was on Ellen when that happened.
Yeah, and he talks about how he legitimately broke his ankle, and they kept the shot because it was the best one.
It was terrifying.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's why I've always respected Tom Cruise's movies, because the man's a crazy person.
Yeah, he's thrill seeker, and he basically uses movies to.
And I mean, it's fascinating, but more important, I think, than discussing the best,
Discussing the worst.
discussing the worst,
That's going to be
and
tough.
the huge misstep that this series took, missteps that they've taken in the past or even in the present time. Where did they mess up?
Okay, let me chime in here
Please.
because I'm of a divided mind of my own accord here on this. Couple of things. And this is going to be very unpopular, I'm sure, with you. So, and we're going to do an unpopular opinions episode someday, and this might be brought up again.
Good.
But, couple of things. I'm between episodes. I'm between movies number 2 and 3 as the worst 2, and I'll tell you why. Not that I dislike them by any means, because I literally, like I mentioned earlier in the episode, I have all of them. And I have watched them all multiple times, and I just enjoy them from start to finish. Shout out to my boy Corey though, because he came over to my house the other day, and I was watching, and he was like, "What you doing?" I was like, "Watching Mission Impossible." He's like, "Why?" And I was so offended by his question.
Yeah, it should be. That's a terrible question to ask.
I was like, "Why? What do you mean why?" Duh, because they're there. That's what you do. But anyway, so I'm between MI2 and MI3. Sorry, our studio audience is really killing my allergies today.
Yeah, sorry. So we're at Studio 3 today.
Studio 3 and our
Studio
live
3
studio
is,
audience
is my house.
are very hairy.
And David has dog allergies.
I have allergies to everything.
So my 2 little mutts are not
It's
being
not
very
working
friendly.
too well with me.
So,
But yes, so numbers 2 and 3. And the reason why number 2, the reason I would call it, I loved the Bellerophon Chimera dynamic. I loved it. But my least favorite part of that movie was Thandie Newton. I could not stand her character. I just was like, she's not that attractive. She's not that alluring. She doesn't really come across as this bad mamma jamma thief that she's supposed to be. Like she's got some skills, but she never really shows any of them. And it's like, what a waste of a cool plot point with putting her in that place. They could have got literally anybody else to do that part, and you would never have wondered what you would never have thought, Thandie Newton would be good for this spot. She was just forgettable. That was my only qualm with that movie. It was good. I loved it, but it was easily, that one element made it weak for me. Now, the only other thing, and this is hotly debatable, but the only other thing that I've had issues with in the franchise happens in number 3. Now, Philip Seymour Hoffman
phenomenal.
was we're not there yet.
Yeah.
On this topic.
We'll get there.
Whew, that man,
He played the role great.
He
Played
was
the role
amazing.
so well.
But the one thing, and what was the name of the girl that plays his wife, Tom's wife in the movie?
Oh, hold on, a blank on that.
She should be listed in the cast there.
Yes. Keep on talking while I look this up because I forget.
Anyway.
I'm going to hit myself whenever I realize who it is. Michelle Monaghan.
Michelle Monaghan. Okay. Michelle Monaghan is a fabulous actress. Very attractive. Awesome
If I didn't
choice.
If I didn't meet Haley, that was going to be...
Naturally.
You know how it goes.
She feels the same way. We talked the other day, Michelle and I. Anyway, we had a cup of coffee. It was no big deal, just a date. Shout out to Michelle.
Stupid. This show is off the rails.
This is, yeah, it's just
24/7.
derailing so fast. But no, so Michelle Monaghan, great actress, perfect choice, in my personal opinion, perfect choice to play the kind of not real world, but I guess like the kind of like domestic, the domestic wife character
Right.
for opposite, Ethan Hunt's crazy, outlandish, like super heroine type thing, or superhero, not heroine. Anyway, the only issue with that entire plot line is that they almost forgot that it existed. they built this entire third part of this franchise. The entire thing was built around Tom, and he was trying to retire, and he was gonna settle down, he was gonna get married, and they brought Michelle Monaghan in, and she was just this great like picture perfect wife, and she didn't disbelieve in it. There was no conflict between the two of them, which was fantastic to see in a Hollywood film. But then here comes episode 4, and it's like they completely forgot about that plot line until the very end.
It's true. It's true. And I mean, it just kind of brushed aside, and I mean,
They just brushed it away, and that was the only thing. And
I don't like these things where like they just it's like we're gonna. It's the only thing worse to me is like whenever you have like a sequel, but the characters change, like it's like a different like person playing that role, like that annoys me so bad.
But that was just the thing though, like because in my opinion, number 3 is a close second to my favorite. Because of Philip Seymour Hoffman, but also because of that whole family element. I thought that was amazing. I thought that was
British scene is so good.
Yeah, I thought that was so, like, okay, top scene in that movie was whenever, spoiler alert, if you haven't seen this movie, I'll give you 10 seconds to fast forward.
It's been 12 years.
Yeah, it's been a while, but whenever he basically, when Philip Seymour Hoffman's character has some other woman wearing a mask that looks like Tom's wife, and then he kills her in front of him. Oh man, I'm getting chills thinking about it right now. I was like, the portrayal, the acting on both sides of that was just so raw. Right. Oh man, I loved it.
So,
but I mean, it was a fantastic film. But I hated the fact the reason I didn't like it, what I didn't like about it, I guess I should say, was the fact that they drew this super heavy emotional plot thread out. And then they just kind of dismissed it.
Right, because they're building the plot around the story of love.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh well, sorry, we kind of forgot.
They're like, oh, never mind.
Yeah. So for me, full disclosure, like I loved all of them. Like I remember watching Mission Impossible 2 when I was younger. So I would have been 15 when that came out. And we all have poor life choices at 15 years old. But I remember thinking like Tom Cruise's flowing locks and how good that would look on me. It wouldn't. Looking back on it, I would look terrible with Tom Cruise's long hair.
The long hair look.
So, 2 is my least favorite. I hate that. For me, it's the dialogue of if my 2. I'm with you on the Thandie Newton was terrible. She was awful in that movie. Now, I also had a crush on her when that came out, so whatever. I think she was gorgeous. But that's besides the point.
That's where we differ in our opinions. That and a bunch of other places.
Yeah. Dorgoy Scott, who played Sean Ambrose, who was the villain, I get it. Like he has an accent. Like I get it.
Yeah.
But he literally sounded like he was eating peanut butter in every take. Like it's like, you don't stop, you're going to blow the canisters. Like it was terrible. Like his dialogue throughout the entire film was just it was garbage.
Yeah, it wasn't great.
They didn't write him a single good line in the movie at all.
Yeah.
Like I think about the racetrack scene where she's taking it out of his pocket and slips it back in there, and it's like, oh, and then they give it back to the house. It's like, oh, it's my left pocket. He knew that she'd done that. I mean, terrible writing. I almost went number 1.
Was that a John Woo film? Is that who made that?
I'm pretty sure it's John Woo. I remember.
That explains a lot.
Yeah. So the first one was on my list of.
The first one was on your list of worst?
Of worst.
Oh, I can't even handle this right now.
But listen, it had to have been because Emmanuel Biart, who played Claire Phillips, which was Jim Phillips' wife, when she spoke, I wanted to stab my ears.
Yeah, she wasn't great.
Like after the opening scene at the hotel, when she comes in there and she's like 4 o'clock, let me to the hotel. I mean, I couldn't stand it. Like I couldn't stand her as a character. Because I felt like even in my younger, more, I guess less knowledgeable days, I always felt like from the beginning that she was double crossing everybody, and she knew what was going on.
Yeah, her her double cross was pretty transparent.
It was,
But
and you
in her
you could see it in
defense,
the beginning.
in her defense, the way you had a super crush on Thandie Newton in number 2, I had that on her.
You're wrong.
In number 1, I thought she was super hot.
But anyway,
No big deal or nothing.
Two is the worst.
Disclaimer, not that it's a bad movie.
It's right. It's not a bad film. They're all still good films.
Yeah.
I mean, they've all got watchability, but when you watch that second one, like
It does feel a little out of place.
it just feels like it's not good. It just feels not good.
Yeah.
And I hate that. Now, Christopher McQuarrie, he has done great with these last two.
Is he the one that's directing the last 2?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just phenomenal because he's and you know, part of his filmmaking now where these movies and these franchises are getting better because number one, they're pouring money into them, but number two, they've got very good writers.
Yeah.
They've got great storylines.
Well, because they're realizing that, and that's kind of the interesting dichotomy between number 1, number 2, and number 3, right? Number 1 was in that era when special effects and CG and stunts weren't really a high priority, right? It was based almost exclusively on storytelling,
right? And then,
which is what I loved about it, is the story was great.
Right.
I mean, you look at it now and it's very trite, right? It's very overdone, and you can see where it's going. It's very transparent, but at the time when it was released,
like the repelling scene was phenomenal, but like looking back, like that was so excessive.
It's so iconic, man.
So excessive.
But like the turn, the twist at the end with, was it Jack? Was that the
Jim?
With Jim being, whenever he sees him in the train station at the payphone.
Yeah. Like
I remember watching that movie and got chills. I was like, what? Like that was cool. I mean, what's her name? With her twist, I mean, that was, you could see that coming a mile away. But it was Jim's return from the dead that nobody expected. Yeah. And that was so cool. But then you shift a couple of years later, what was it, like 96 to 2000 or something like that?
Yeah.
And you look and you see that the storytelling takes second seat to the visuals, the choreography, the fight scenes. And I remember
the opening scene where he's rock climbing.
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
it was just pointless, kind of very two-dimensional character development. But that's kind of iconic and representational of the era that film was made in, right?
It was, right.
And that was how all the films were at that point. It was just all about, the spectacle, right?
It was a John Woo thing. I mean, John Woo just... Yeah.
But then you transition from that, out of that into number 3, and you see that there is this kind of push for heavy story with incredible visuals and choreography and stunts. And I remember watching, I think it was probably Ellen or Oprah or somebody, whenever they were interviewing him about the third one, and the scene when he's on the bridge and they shoot the RPG and he's running away from the RPG and it blows up and it throws him into that car.
Yeah.
I remember them talking about that and how like that was the big stunt from that film.
I think everyone forgets that at MIT you also had a short role from Anthony Hopkins. I always forget that.
That's true. That's true. He was probably the best part of that film.
Anthony Hopkins makes everything better.
Yeah, I agree.
So, you have 6 films now, okay?
Yeah.
Who has been the best villain in these 6 films?
Ooh, I've got a pretty definitive answer on this.
Please. You've already and I think you've already alluded to it.
I have. And it's not by any means it's as a standalone villain. And I'm not... Solomon Kane was amazing in the 5th one, and the fact that he's returning in the 6th, that makes him a two film arc villain, which is a whole nother level. They've never really done that before. But if I were to pick a standalone, standout villain, it'd been Philip Seymour Hoffman's character. And it was just because he was unstoppable. He was ahead of Ethan Hunt and his crew every step of the way. And my favorite part of that movie, the part that I'm thinking about it now, it still gives me chills, is the fact that they just portrayed it so well. I'll cut that blank spot out. was the fact that whenever they abduct him and they have him in the plane and they're threatening him, they're trying to get all this information out of him. And he threatens Ethan and he says, I'm going to find out who you love and I'm going to kill them. I'm going to kill them in front of you, and then I'm going to torture you in front of them, and then I'm going to kill them in front of you,
Right.
and I'm going to break you. And he's just basically he's detailing everything he's going to do to him.
Yeah, he's laying out his entire plan.
Yeah,
he's telling
and
him
he's
to
so
face.
confident. He's so cold about it. And then whenever he's got him on that bench and he's in the plane, and they tip him over, and he's basically hanging out, and they're cutting the straps off of him, and he's about to fall, and then he throws him back, and what's his name? Ving Rhames says his name. He says, Ethan, don't. And he hears him.
Yeah.
And he says, Ethan. You're Ethan. And that one scene gets me. Because I'm just like, that was a mistake. Oh, it was so good.
I think with Philip Seymour Hoffman's arc as a villain, the best scene with in 3 was the bridge. That bridge scene was
where they take him back.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was so well shot.
Oh yeah.
Like it was so good.
The cinematography, the choreography, the plan, the execution, everything about that. The stunt, and that was so crazy too, because when you watch the trailer for it and you see him get thrown against that car,
right.
and you're thinking that it's real. It was real.
It's real.
And that was the big stunt, and he's been trying to one-up himself ever since.
Yeah. Now,
but
see,
yeah, it was just expertly executed.
Have been a fan of Philip Seymour Hoffman, and I've already talked about mine.
Solomon Kane, right?
It's not even close.
Yeah.
And for almost the same reasons that you described Philip Seymour Hoffman, saying that he was, one step ahead. Solomon Kane knew what Ethan was going to do. He knew all the protocols, what was going to happen next, etc.
Yeah.
And he's always right there from the very, very beginning, where you see him in that record store.
Yeah.
And
That scene from the record store when he kills that girl right in front of Ethan, that was heartbreaking.
Right.
Because she was fangirling on Ethan the whole time, and then he's trapped in there, and then he watches. She's like begging him to come help her, and he can't do anything, and then he kills her.
It's so good.
Oh, sorry, spoiler alert.
But I think that I really think, and his voice can be a bit abrasive for some.
Yeah, it felt his. Okay, let me equate him to a villain that we've talked about before. He was very Bane-esque with his vocal
Right. It was hard
demonstration. It was really hard to be intimidated by his voice.
The character is very, very well done.
Yeah.
But the voice leaves a little bit to be desired.
Yeah.
And so, when I first saw the first time that I saw Rogue Nation, I remember watching that and thinking, who is this guy? And then, as the story goes on and it progresses, and you meet all these other players. You meet Rebecca Ferguson's character, and the overall storytelling, number one, for Rogue Nation was one of the best stories in the entire franchise that I've seen. But the way that they did Solomon Lane, and I think the way they catch him at the end.
I said Solomon Kane earlier. That was a mistake. Sorry, listeners.
Why does it why does that name sound familiar? Solomon Kane.
Solomon Kane is another literary character, I think, from something else. Give us a comment on Facebook or on Instagram if you can educate us on Solomon Kane, if that's a thing.
So when I'm sitting there and I watched Solomon Lane's character, and as it goes on, everything Ethan does is just never enough. It's never enough, and they finally catch me. I mean, it's just, I thought that character, and when he was first gone, I was almost excited about it. But now seeing him back for Fallout, I'm actually really excited because the preview, the way the trailers come across, the way that they have his character played out, it looks a lot of fun. He's got to figure all this stuff out, and then he's got mustache Superman side by side, and
we get to see the Bane of Justice League in full swing, and which I'm excited about, because here's the thing: if the Rotten Tomatoes score is indicative of anything, it's that Henry Cavill was not remiss to do the role that he did that caused the problem with the Justice League, right? So I'm excited about that.
But sir, which I didn't know this until just now. The last 3 movies have all been over 90% on Rotten Tomatoes.
I did not know that.
I didn't either. I had no clue. So Ghost Protocol came in at a 93% with on Rotten Tomatoes, with a 73% on Metacritic. Rogue Nation came in at a 93 on Rotten Tomatoes, 75 on Metacritic, and as it stands right now for Fallout, it's sitting at 96 on Rotten Tomatoes. I mean,
that's staggering.
And I was trying to think about the other movies that were high up there, and I made the same comment when Black Panther came out. That Black Panther was in the 90s like this is, and I made the comment before, Melissa. I'm like you're talking right now about comparing, a movie like Fallout, which I'm going to love and I'm going to think is a great movie, to a movie like The Godfather. Yeah, and it's not the same thing.
Instant classics.
Yeah,
actual classics.
Well, will it be good? You bet your booty it will be good. I think it'll be a great movie, but will it be Godfather?
Probably not.
Exactly. Will it be, will it be, I don't know, all classic movies. I'm not really a classic.
Citizen Kane.
Will it be Citizen Kane? No, this is Mission Impossible. This is Mission Impossible.
Yeah.
This is Black Panther. I mean, so, I don't hate it. I think it's great.
We have to keep in mind, too, that, Rotten Tomatoes is heavily influenced by public opinion.
Right.
So it's not by any means.
That's how it is.
Yeah, it's not by any means indicative of the actual quality of a film, because there are films in my opinion, should have scored much higher than they did, but they got like a 10%, and they're movies that I love.
Like
a perfect example, which you may disagree with, which is uncommon for this show.
It's true,
but. Perfect example of that.
For being two nerds, we disagree a whole lot.
Yeah, we do.
But for good reason.
For good reason. And we play it off pretty well, right? Anyway, this isn't about us. But a perfect example of Rotten Tomatoes being super harsh on a film that, in my opinion, was stellar is, I'll give you 3 examples. Some of our listeners may disagree with these too. And if you do, feel free to give us comments on these. We'd love to hear your opinions on which films got bad reviews on Rotten Tomatoes or some other critic site, but that you actually loved, right? But here's my top 3 just off the top of my head. John Carter. Disney movie, a big epic space battle, space cowboy thing. Incredible movie, in my opinion. Just an awesome, stellar storytelling, great acting, great visuals. I own the movie, love it. I've seen it several times, but it got a horrible rating. Critics panned that movie so hard. Example number 2, Ender's Game. I thought it was fantastic. Critics destroyed it. Fanboys of the books, which some of them may be listeners of this show, hit it so hard that they literally canceled every other possibility of franchising that film out. And then I had a third one, and I forgot what it was.
Perfect. What? We have a list of 2 things, and we forgot one of them. Now, be honest, I've not seen either one of those movies. I've not seen either one of them.
I have both of them, and I'd be more than willing to share them with you and let you form your own opinion at a later date. I think you'd like them.
I've got a list. I'm in the middle of my list right now.
Have you seen Ready Player One yet?
No, it's on my list. It's next up. I'm finishing Death Wish right now.
When you watch Ready Player One, let me know what you think of it. Did you see Valerian in the City of a Thousand Planets?
No.
Okay.
Ready Player One is on Prime.
Yeah.
And I just that main character guy.
Yeah.
I just think he looks weird.
Hayden Christensen. That's not his name.
No,
that's not him.
I feel like when I watch him, he looks like he looks like me when I got a bad haircut when I was like 13.
Yeah, he's
it's like when I'm watching
looking.
the show, I feel like I'll be able to focus. Like I remember. Do you have the bowl cut? Did you?
I do.
Did you get the bowl cut?
I never had one. My hair wasn't like that.
I wanted the undershave, where like they shave like under to where like your hair just kind of like flops down. You can like twist it around and it, like. I wanted to. My mom wouldn't let me get it. She insisted that I get my haircut like an Amish man.
The bowl cut, as in the kind of haircut that I think it was the youngest or the middle of the three ninjas had. Colt, I believe, was the middle one. I think he's the one that had it.
There was
Where it literally-
Tum was the youngest. There's Tum Tum, Colt, and
I can't remember the older one.
Oh,
Dragon.
it wasn't Dragon. It was
Dragon.
Colt. Tum Tum was the little kid.
Yeah. Colt was the middle one.
Continue.
I can't remember their names. Anyway, but when you see Ready Player One, and if you ever, get the nerve to watch Valerian, they're very similar,
It was Rocky. Rocky was the other one.
which is not as cool as the other two
No,
names.
it was really not. Like
It was
Colt
very-
and Tum Tum.
Tum Tum was kind of like, I got heartburn. Come here, Tum Tum.
Oh, so bad. These are movies that you watch when you're a younger kid. They're like that are action films when you're a kid, and you look back, you're like, oh, what is this garbage?
Right. But yeah, when you watch those, you'll understand what I love, because I did enjoy both Ready Player One and Valerian, and I thought they were both fun and visually just incredibly good. But and the other ones, what was it? Ender's Game and John Carter. They fall into that same category of movies that could have been much better, but were by no means horrible,
Right.
in my opinion. Which I have a very different opinion than most people.
No, that's fine. So how far can this franchise go? We're at 6 films.
Yeah.
How many films can this franchise, in all honesty, ride?
Ideally, it would just be Tom Cruise's retirement would be the only thing that would kill it. But at the same time, I would hope, personally, as a fan of the franchise, that the point at which the films can no longer be quality because they've done everything, or Tom can't do anything anymore, or they try to kill his character.
Could it be a James Bond thing where they make 20? They're 26 now.
Yeah, but they've had multiple
and the main
actors.
character keeps right. But you can change the main character if you want to.
Yeah,
if it's still quality.
They could.
There were
but
bad movies with Bond. Moonraker. Ugh,
I actually really liked that one, but just because I like outer space,
so stupid.
it was a very stupid film.
Terrible.
Jaws was by far the worst villain.
Yeah. It's terrible.
So stupid. Anyway, no, I think at the rate that the films are going and the way that Tom is escalating his desire to do stunts just over and over and over and getting bigger and bigger and bigger,
Right.
and he hurts himself more and more every film that they make.
Honestly, is he ever gonna hurt himself so bad that he has to hang it up?
I would imagine that the only thing that would stop Tom from making those movies, other than just the fact that he's just he's done. He's kind of like, he pulls a Harrison Ford and he's like, I'm only going to make one more of these if we can kill the character, right?
Right.
I think the only thing that would stop him would be if he was doing a stunt and you got a Brandon Lee in The Crow type scenario where he actually dies in a stunt, which would be super tragic. But I feel like, as long as there are people willing to write, and as long as there is a Tom Cruise willing to, oh God, what is your dog doing?
She's making it bad.
And as long as there's a Tom Cruise willing to do stunts, she's not going to let us finish this episode.
She's not.
I think that realistically, I think they could continue. I don't know. What I like about it is that everybody that's in it, so far as I can tell, Simon Pegg, Ving Rhames, Tom Cruise, Michelle Monaghan, all these other characters, these recurring characters, so far as I can tell, as far as I know, all of them are coming back to this because they like it.
Right.
They're not contracted in like Chris Evans is with the Marvel movies or whatever.
Right. I could see 2 more, honestly. I think at 8.
I would think pushing for 10 would probably be a solid way to round it out.
But if you're putting 3 or 4 years between these,
True.
You're getting up on age.
Yeah.
I mean, when they start rattling off every other year, you're getting up there in age. Can you still keep doing it?
I just hope they don't try a Crystal Skull type thing and try to bring in
please don't.
younger blood, so to speak, to... I hope they don't try that.
This franchise needs to really set it off? Shia LaBeouf.
Hey, listen, say what you want about Shia LaBeouf, and he may be a complete wacko, But dude is an insanely good actor.
Yeah.
Have you seen Fury?
Yeah, it's good.
That movie was amazing.
Yeah. Have you seen Even Stevens?
Oh, come on.
Ren. I know. Wait.
His worst.
Was it Ren and Lois? Was Lois the old? No. Ren was the sister, right?
I don't know. I don't
What was
remember.
his name?
His name was Steven.
No. Ren Stevens and
I don't remember
Lewis.
his
It
name.
was Lewis.
Lewis, that was it.
Lewis.
But his worst work, not to go on the bashing Shia train.
If you utter Transformers, I will drop kick you out of the Studio 3.
Are you a fan of the Transformers?
They're all amazing.
I can't even look at you right now.
The Last Night is terrible.
I
tried
thought,
to watch it. That was
okay,
terrible.
let me just say this. I thought the 3 that he was in were passable.
Yeah.
Mark Wahlberg was trash in those movies.
You're a robot, man. What's up with that?
What?
You're a robot, man. It's my Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah.
Mark Wahlberg.
I like Mark. I like Mark a lot,
Yeah.
but he
Pain
was
and Gain.
horrible in
Pain
those
and Gain.
movies.
Phenomenal.
I didn't care for that one. I did like his Planet of the Apes movie though, even though it was sad. It was just really sad.
I just hate you.
Well, I think we're getting to the end of our time. We are
Way of where we're meant to be.
sorry, listeners. We went so long today, but we're fanboying so much over here. I'm going to sneeze.
I do love Tom Cruise. I truly think Tom Cruise is a great guy.
I'm
We
gonna
gotta edit.
I'm
We're gonna edit this north right
I'm
now.
going to leave those sneezes in there for the
Oh,
listeners.
we're gonna.
You're welcome, guys.
Thanks
you got
for
a
joining
front row
us.
seat to. I'm sneezing straight into your ear holes right
Next
now.
time we will quit recording at Studio 3 because
I'm allergic to Studio 3. That's the problem.
it's not my fault.
It is your fault.
God
You
gave
own these animals.
God gave you poor genes.
Yeah, that's true. I'm not wearing jeans, Ro. I'm wearing
Khakis.
kakais. Oh, man.
Thanks for joining us. What a day.
What a day.